I'm sure you're noticing something different about me. I have a new mustache in support of Movember. I'm actually here at the headquarters of Movember, and we're going to talk about mental illness and their current support to men's health and what they do, etc., etc. So let's start this interview. So this is Cleoni from IamCleoni.com, and introduce yourself.
I'm Jesse Heyman, and I work on community engagement at Movember Canada.
Okay.
And essentially just getting the community involved and supporting the Mo-Bros and Mo-Sisters that participate and make this campaign amazing every year.
Cool. So I'm a Mo-Sister for today.
You're a Mo-Sister.
Okay.
Always, not just today. Always, not
just
today.
Of course. So, and yourself?
I'm Tyler Small. I work with Jesse on community engagement as well. So pretty much the same thing he said, but yeah, here at Movember Canada, and we're about to start. We're about 3 days away from the month, so we're
which is pretty exciting. Awesome. So it's crunch time. So the first thing I want to ask is, we know who you are. So what is Movember? Explain this whole mustache thing.
Movember is a global month-long event where we get men to grow mustaches and raise awareness and funds for men's health. In Canada, that's prostate cancer, testicular cancer, and men's mental health programs. Mm-hmm. And we also have women we call Mo-Sisters who are also on Movember.com. They support the men in their life, try to get them to be more active and healthy, and also raise funds and run events and make a huge difference.
Okay, wonderful. So the first thing I wanted to ask is, what are some of the challenges that men with a mental illness face in coming out and
I think men with mental illnesses, along with their health, face a lot of the same issues that women face, and I don't think it's that separated. I do think there's more of a stigma with men because of how uncomfortable we are speaking about our health in general. Mm-hmm. But outside of that, I don't think there, from my perspective, and I'm not an expert, that there's much more to it. There's stigma surrounding mental health. There's not a community that knows how to support people that are suffering and need help, and not necessarily the best professional support that's out there right now either. So I don't think that there's necessarily something. I think it's just more of a stigma than you're used to seeing with general mental health with men, because in general we're just less comfortable talking about our health.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's fair. And so why do you think, even though you're saying that, why do you think men choose not to get help? Because there are many different organizations that provide help for people with a mental illness, but most likely, many times it's more women who are reaching out for help, and men tend not to come out or tend not to identify with their illnesses. And so I just want to know, do you think there are any barriers, any things that men actually face in actually reaching out?
I think as we get more involved in the mental health space within Canada, we've had conversations with men that have come forward and shared their stories with us too. And a lot of it, what they said was the kind of the almost embarrassment of saying and looking weak. And these are guys that, some of them were in positions of like soldier, police officer, or professional athlete that they keep up a pretty tough persona, and they don't want to be judged by their coworkers and by their teammates. So they struggle to kind of just step up and share their story because they don't know what the repercussions are going to be, how people are going to treat them about it, if it's going to affect their job or their career too. So yeah, I think it is the stigma around seeming weak because you have a mental illness.
Okay.
I think it's still the same thing. If you look at it, it's all the things that you just spoke about. It's the stigma around mental health, mm-hmm. but it's just more so with men than anywhere else. And if you look at it in regards to mental health, and I'm sure you know this, but we're severely less diagnosed with mental illnesses, but men kill themselves way more often mm-hmm. than women do, which obviously doesn't match up. And I think it really does come down to the fact that it's the tough guy persona. And men aren't comfortable speaking about their health and being okay with being vulnerable, and not nearly as much as women are.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, because I would even consider the idea of that. Just being in a position of having your mind challenging you and not having that ability to use your mind to its fullest capacity can also, work against a male who might be struggling with the whole idea that this is now challenging the marriage. It's just like you're mentioning.
You mean like the idea of control? Like if you...
Yeah.
admit to yourself that you have a mental illness, then you've got to admit that you don't have control over everything.
Yeah, that's not. I have to question that also.
Yeah.
So why do you think it's important to raise awareness for mental illness as a whole, and even mental illness among men?
I think awareness and like stigma and awareness are interesting words. I think what really needs to be raised is education. And in raising education, I think we can start breaking down stigma. I think people are very aware of mental illnesses. We're just not necessarily educated about mental illnesses in regards to how to be there for someone and the support that is actually out there and what to expect. And not necessarily people that are dealing with mental illnesses, but the people that would be there to support them as well. So when I say awareness, I mean very much an education standpoint in a form that isn't necessarily readily available right now, but hopefully in the next few years you'll see some resources pop up where people can educate themselves more. And that's what awareness is for me, and how you can actually make a difference is making sure the community of people that don't necessarily suffer from mental illness or deal with it every day know how to be there for someone who does reach out. Because we're telling people to reach out, we need to make sure we're educating ourselves enough so that we can be there for them when they do.
Okay.
And we're fortunate enough that the Movember realizes that we're going to have these conversations with people, so we have some training based on how to support somebody if they do come to you, and a lot of the conversations around listening to and not just trying to give them an answer right away, but listening to their own issues and just being there and actually listening and supporting them too. But as Jesse said, hopefully that's something that catches on in more workplaces and everywhere in the community. People are educated on what it's like to live with mental illness and what the people with mental illness are actually looking for from you if they reach out.
So currently, when people do, because with the whole Movember brand, it's very supportive, providing a supportive environment towards men's health and even just the whole conversation. So when men do come and kind of reach out, is there places that you may direct them, like services? Do you currently have certain partnerships with different organizations out in the community that are currently offering help to kind of put them in the right direction?
Yeah, our website has resources that are available for people to get help with, whether it's your local CAMH or whatever association it is. And I think one of the things that we struggle with, and not Movember, but as a community, is that the resources aren't necessarily plentiful right now for everyone. So we definitely direct people to the places that we know that are the best, and we have that section on movember.com that we can direct people to. But also I think just opening and being an ear for someone is, in a lot of cases, other than the extreme ones where someone needs help right now, is like, that is truly the difference that you can make. We have a Mobro who we spoke about earlier, Kevin Swain, and he came out and told his story to Movember, and it was the first time he had shared his story publicly. And he's now someone that speaks for us at different events. He's a police officer that will come in uniform as like a leader in the community and speak. And I'm assuming that it was the Movember community and the idea of people being willing to listen that allowed him to open up. And that in itself is so much help in regards to supporting people. And then there's the other side of people that do need immediate help now. There's those resources on movember.com that we use and encourage people to seek out help.
Okay. So you mentioned Kevin Swain.
Swain, yeah.
Maybe you can talk more about his actual story you can just...
Yeah, hopefully we can get him to do the same thing. I don't want to tell too much, but Kevin was a former soldier. He was about 18 years old and didn't do too well in high school. So he had some limited options after graduating, and he decided to join the military at the time in a peacekeeping, as a peacekeeper, but he didn't expect to be deployed or anything, and it turned out that he did get sent over to Iran. Didn't really think he signed up to be shot at and actually be in situations where there was life and death and everything, and he was deployed back and forth for years, and eventually it just kind of caught up with him. He developed post-traumatic stress disorder. At one point in his life, he went 8 years without being able to sleep a night. So,
oh my goodness.
He felt like somebody was coming to get him every night. He had the same nightmare, and he would wake up and have trouble getting back to sleep again. Eventually it led to a breakdown of his marriage, he lost contact with his kids, and he decided that he was kind of a burden on his family, and he had severe depression at the time, and he decided that he was going to take his own life. Fortunately, I believe it was his mom kind of realized what was going on because he had been struggling for a while, and then called the police, and his co-workers, he now works for York Regional Police, actually came and saved his life, and Kevin is back now, he works for the police. But as Jesse said, this was the first time he kind of shared his story last year. Even his co-workers that he was off for a year didn't know what the story was or anything, so he felt comfortable with Movember. Came in and shared his story, and as Jesse said, now he talks on behalf of us as well, which is pretty huge. And he said that being able to share this story, even with, we had 12 people there, it wasn't a big group, but it's a lot of people when you've never told anybody, and he said it took a huge weight off his shoulders. Just every time he gets to go in public and speak to, it's like another layer that he's letting go of the story and accepting more of what he went through and how his life is now.
Cool. I guess it's just about providing those safe spaces. And it's very good to know that Movember is providing a safe space for people to come and just kind of, express themselves and actually be able to get that support with it, that non-judgmental support. Because sometimes in society, there is a lot of judgment towards mental illness because, of lack of education, like you mentioned. And it's good when you can find a space where people are supportive. So it's awesome.
We're not by any means experts. We are a charitable campaign that tries to get people talking.
Right.
All we are is, and I think this is like anything that everyone should be in the community, is people that are willing to listen and are accepting and not judgmental. But it has nothing to do with like we're not any more professionals than your average Joe that's walking on the street.
Right.
I think that's the key, is everyone can be an open ear and non-judgmental and be open to hearing stories.
Yeah, we definitely didn't do that because it was our job or something. It was more, he's been an awesome friend to our campaign and friend to everybody in this office. So, he opened up and said he wanted to share. So we would have done it. And even if it was just me or Jesse, personally friends, like we'd sit down for coffee and do the same thing.
Right.
But it's pretty cool that we get to be able to be in that space that people do reach out to us to through Movember.
Cool. So my next question is, how do you think a talk show like mine, which allows men and women to share their lived experiences, could actually help our community?
I think we kind of touched on exactly why already. But it's and you mentioned stories, and stories obviously help, and I think told in the right way they can really help. And I think we're often telling stories in a very basic way, like, hey, I'm so and so, and I live with this. And I don't know how much that helps everyone, but when you get into the nuts and bolts of your story and share that people can see and relate to you and maybe relate to one little part of your story, now you can maybe create empathy, and if you educate people as well along with that, hopefully something like a talk show and like your talk show can push people to want to get more involved, and by that I mean educate themselves. And if we can educate a little bit more of people within the community how to be there for someone, then that's a small step in the right direction.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I just want to add personally, just from hearing people say stories too, often when somebody attempts suicide or does take their life, we hear that it's a very selfish act, and that was something that I always struggled with. Like, it's not a selfish act, and just from hearing people that have actually, like Kevin Swain, who attempted suicide, and can actually come and talk now and say what he was thinking at the time was that he was convinced he was a burden to his family and they'd be better off without him. It wasn't like he was trying to hurt people or be selfish about it. And I think that's the power of stories, is when you hear it firsthand from somebody. We can go talk about mental health, but if we have somebody there that has actually dealt with mental illness and can speak from their experience, it's so much more powerful, and it really does. It makes a huge difference, and every time we've done it, somebody's come up after and said something to them, like somebody in their family struggles with mental illness, and one lady came up and said, yeah, I'm going to go home and talk to my son tonight and actually have a real conversation with him about what's going on.
Okay, that's awesome. Just kind of inspires people to just, reach out to other people. And I just think that the power of a story, just like you mentioned, is does create that empathy, and also helps to normalize it. where people can stop seeing it as just something that's over there, but actually connect
Totally.
with the people. So, last thing is, do you have any final comments?
No, I think what you're doing is great, and thank you for having us. And I think I can speak for Tyler to say that. And yeah, lots of fun, and keep doing what you're doing, because we totally agree. Telling stories and getting people talking in so many ways makes a big difference. I think we've chatted about some of the ways, but even having people on a show or any time that can speak about their experience, it makes them more comfortable speaking. They start speaking to people more often, and someone along the line is going to share with them their story that they haven't shared before. And so it's a waterfall effect, and get the ball rolling. Right. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So we're about to start Movember in just a few more days. So basically, how do you participate? Very quickly, 30 seconds.
If you're a Mobro, head to Movember.com, shave clean on Movember 1st, and sign up at Movember.com. If you're a Mo Sister, head to Movember.com, sign up, and use other people's mustaches as a conduit to conversation about men's health. And so just, grow Mo's and start talking about men's health, and hopefully take healthy actions in this month to make your life a little bit better.
Awesome.
Have fun.
And have fun.
And have fun. So this is Cleoni with her little mustache, signing off. Whatever. With my mustache, signing off, saying thanks for being here, and take care, and peace.